As gardeners, we've all been there, slow, smelly compost piles that demand constant attention, endless turning, and months of waiting before we can finally feed our plants. I've spent years experimenting with different ways to enrich my soil, and I've discovered something that completely changed my garden. Something faster, cleaner, and incredibly effective: fermentation. Yes, you read that right. Forget turning piles and worrying about odors. This method can double your plant growth while keeping your garden space clean, compact, and free of pests. And the best part? You don't need a backyard the size of a farm. Even apartment gardeners can harness this technique with simple jars and buckets. Today, I want to share everything I've learned so you can start transforming your garden from the ground up. Before we dive into fermentation, let's be honest about composting. It works, but it's slow and labor-intensive. You spend weeks or even months managing piles, monitoring moisture, turning layers, and sometimes dealing with unpleasant smells. Even when you do everything right, a significant portion of the nitrogen and other nutrients is lost during the decomposition process. Composting has its place, especially for large-scale gardens, but for home gardeners looking for speed and efficiency, it can feel like an uphill battle. I wanted something that kept all the nutrients intact, required minimal effort, and actually boosted plant growth faster than traditional methods. That's when I turned to fermentation. Fermentation isn't a new concept. Humans have used it for centuries to preserve food, from pickles to kimchi, and it works for plants too. By fermenting organic materials like grass clippings, kitchen scraps, and other green matter, you create a nutrient-rich solution packed with beneficial microbes and organic acids. These microbes don't just feed plants, they transform your soil ecosystem, making it more resilient, fertile, and vibrant. The first step is understanding the ingredients and the process. For your first batch, start simple. All you really need are fresh grass clippings, water, a sweetener like molasses, and an inoculant to kickstart fermentation. The inoculant can be rice wash water, effective microorganisms, or even a little sauerkraut brine. The ratio is important. Aim for about 60% grass clippings to 40% water by volume. Fill your bucket or fermentation vessel about 3/4 full, leaving some headspace for bubbling. For every gallon of mixture, add 2 tablespoons of molasses. Molasses acts as a food source for the microbes, ensuring the fermentation is active and healthy. Once your mixture is ready, seal it in a bucket or jar. Keep it in a warm area, ideally between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't worry if the temperature drops, fermentation will still happen, just at a slower pace. Within a few days you should notice bubbles rising and a pleasantly tangy aroma filling the air. Think of the scent of pickles or sauerkraut. This is your first sign that the fermentation is thriving. Fermentation works by creating an anaerobic or oxygen-free environment where beneficial bacteria and microbes multiply. These microbes break down organic matter into forms that plants can absorb immediately, unlike compost, which slowly decomposes and often loses nutrients along the way. The acids produced during fermentation, such as lactic acid, help unlock minerals in the soil, making them more bioavailable to plants. This process also discourages harmful pathogens from taking hold, creating a safer environment for seedlings and mature plants alike. In practical terms, what this means for you as a gardener is simple. Your plants get more nutrients faster, your soil structure improves, and you spend far less time managing piles of compost. Over time, repeated use of fermented materials boosts soil microbiology, encourages earthworms and beneficial fungi, and enhances the natural resilience of your garden. Patience is key, but not as much as with compost. After 3 to 6 weeks, the bubbling in your fermentation vessel will slow down or even stop. When you open the lid, you should see clippings that have turned golden brown and smell fresh, sour, and just a bit sweet. This is very different from the pungent odor of a neglected compost heap. If you're a detail-oriented gardener, you can check the pH. A healthy fermentation should read between 3.5 and 4.0, which means you've got a safe, acidic environment that preserves nutrients and encourages beneficial microbial activity. But even if you don't test it, your nose is usually enough. The scent is unmistakable. Once it's ready, your fermented clippings are a versatile gardening powerhouse. One of the things I love most about this method is its versatility. There are 3 main ways you can use fermented clippings depending on your garden's needs. First, as a soil amendment. Mix about an inch of fermented material into the top layer of soil per square foot. The acidity helps loosen compacted clay, while the organic matter improves water retention in sandy soils. Over time, this creates a light, crumbly soil structure that plants adore. Second, as a top dressing, spread the fermented material around the base of your plants, keeping it slightly away from stems to avoid burning tender tissues. As it breaks down, it continuously feeds your soil with microbes and organic acids, essentially creating a slow-release natural fertilizer. Third, and my personal favorite, is using it as a liquid fertilizer. Strain the liquid from your fermentation vessel and dilute it with water. For general feeding, use a ratio of 1 part fermented liquid to 10 parts water. For sensitive plants, dilute it further to 1 part liquid to 20 parts water. Apply it as a soil drench or foliar spray during cooler parts of the day. The nutrients are immediately available, giving plants a visible boost in growth and vigor. There's something magical about the way plants respond to fermented material. Unlike traditional compost, which gradually releases nutrients, fermentation preserves nitrogen and other key nutrients, while also producing organic acids that help roots absorb minerals more effectively. The beneficial microbes you introduce into your garden don't just feed plants, they restructure your soil ecosystem. Over time, your soil becomes a living network of microbes, fungi, and earthworms working in harmony. This naturally increases resilience against pests and diseases, reduces dependency on synthetic fertilizers, and promotes long-term soil fertility. Even small-scale gardeners will notice the difference. You don't need a massive backyard. Even jars of kitchen scraps can be fermented to provide nutrients for potted plants, window boxes, or container gardens. To get the most out of fermentation, consistency and attention to detail help. Always use fresh materials, grass clippings, vegetable scraps, or other green matter that hasn't started to rot. Avoid adding too much water, which can dilute the mixture, or too little, which can slow microbial activity. Temperature is important. Fermentation thrives in warm conditions, but it will still work in cooler weather if you're patient. If you notice any foul odors, this usually indicates the fermentation didn't start correctly, or harmful bacteria have taken over. In that case, start fresh, adjusting your ratios and inoculants. Fermentation also allows for continuous use. While one batch is fermenting, you can prepare another batch, creating a steady supply of nutrient-rich material for your garden. Over time, this builds a long-lasting base of organic matter and healthy microbial activity that traditional composting struggles to match. Consistent use of fermented materials transforms your garden on multiple levels. Soil structure improves, water holding capacity increases, and nutrient cycling becomes far more efficient. Your plants grow faster, look healthier, and produce more abundant fruits and vegetables. For me, the biggest change has been the vitality of my soil. It's no longer just dirt. It's a living, breathing ecosystem that supports life above and below ground. Earthworms, beneficial fungi, and microbes thrive naturally, reducing pest pressure and improving plant resilience. Over the long term, this approach even contributes to carbon storage, making your garden more environmentally sustainable. Fermentation is also clean and compact. Unlike bulky compost piles, it requires minimal space, produces no odor, and keeps pests away. Apartment gardeners, small space growers, and container gardeners can all take advantage of this method without worrying about mess or smell. If you've ever struggled with slow compost piles, nutrient-hungry plants, or the sheer labor of traditional gardening methods, fermentation is a game-changer. It's simple, powerful, and incredibly effective. With just a bucket, a few ingredients, and some patience, you can transform your garden, boost plant growth, and enrich your soil faster than ever before. Your soil will come alive, your plants will flourish, and you'll wonder why you ever wasted time with traditional compost piles. By adopting this method, you're not just feeding plants, you're nurturing a thriving ecosystem that will support your garden for years to come. So, fellow gardeners, it's time to stop composting forever and embrace this secret fermentation method. Your garden, and the planet, will thank you. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Soil Power and share this article with your gardening friends. Together, we can grow stronger plants, richer soils, and a greener planet, one fermentation bucket at a time.